In my opinion, Marlon is one of the most horrific and sinister characters in The Walking Dead, a master manipulator who's often overlooked or forgotten. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on how he kept up a carefully crafted facade while enabling some of the most heinous crimes imaginable. This one's going to be heavy, and I guarantee you'll never look at the final season the same way again. At the very start of The Walking Dead the final season, Clementine and AJ are ambushed by a horde of walkers while scavenging for supplies. With nowhere to run and panic closing in, Clementine accidentally crashes their car into a ditch. Death is seconds away, until they're rescued by a mysterious figure who turns out to be none other than Marlon, the leader of Erickson's School for Troubled Youth, a small group of survivors compromised almost entirely by former students, abandoned by most of their teachers. On the surface, Marlon appears charismatic and composed, even showing patience toward AJ's trauma-fueled quirks. But beneath that facade lurks someone far more sinister than people often realize. By the end of the first episode, Marlon is exposed as a traitor, a leader secretly selling kids to a group called the Delta to be used as soldiers in their war. I bring this up because it's crucial context for understanding his character. Marlon didn't save Clementine and AJ out of kindness, he rescued them as future bargaining chips for the Delta. This revelation completely reframes the entire first episode. Clem and AJ were snatched from the jaws of death only to be delivered into another nightmare as potential child soldiers. Every word Marlon speaks, every act of seeming compassion, is pure manipulation. He isn't kind or protective, and certainly not toward AJ. The reason he restrains his temper toward AJ, despite having documented anger issues revealed later, is because he needs Clem and AJ to trust him, so he can ultimately hand them over. Many people tend to excuse Marlon's actions, dismissing him as just a scared kid doing what he had to do. But the reality is far darker. Think about it. He practically kidnaps Clementine and AJ under the guise of offering safety, all while weaving a carefully constructed lie to win their trust. That's not simply fear or desperation. It's cold, deliberate complicity. We know Marlon has no problem lying because he deceives even those closest to him. Like 10, he fabricates an entire story about how 10's sisters died, when in truth he handed them over to the Delta. Meanwhile, he turns Erickson's into an open-air prison, building a perimeter and stoking fear to keep the kids compliant and inside the walls. Marlon knew exactly what threats lay beyond those gates, and instead of being honest, he chose to risk everyone's lives, leaving them vulnerable to starvation via shrinking supplies, just to protect his secret. Many people assume Marlon was never truly evil, simply because he does a few nice things, like helping Clementine overcome her fear of dogs. But what many overlook is that the entire time, Marlon is only keeping Clem and AJ around as bargaining chips. Of course he's being nice. If he weren't, they might leave, and that could threaten his leadership the next time more students mysteriously go missing. If you're still not convinced that Marlon is putting on an act, the game provides us with a perfect contrast. Brody. Brody is the only other student at Erickson's who knows the truth, and she's a completely different type of person. She's visibly introverted, anxious, and emotionally fragile, breaking down when the burden of secrecy becomes too much. A normal person like Brody can't maintain a facade. She tries to keep her distance and hide the cracks, but the weight of the horrifying truth crushes her. Marlon, on the other hand, only shows anger when the truth finally surfaces, not out of genuine remorse or overwhelming guilt, but because he's been exposed and his entire plan is collapsing. His image, his control, everything he's built is suddenly at risk, and it's in this moment that Marlon finally snaps, revealing his true colours for everyone to see. When the truth finally comes out on that rainy dark night exposed by Brody, Marlon's fury erupts, and at that point he no longer bothers to hide it. His mask drops completely. Instead of keeping up his act, he bludgeons Brody to death in a fit of rage. That sudden loss of control sends him spiraling. He appears to show remorse, claiming he needs to fetch a medkit, but he returns empty-handed. Did he truly care about Brody, or was he only worried about preserving his own reputation? We get the answer when he bolts from the basement, leaving Clementine trapped inside to face the now Walker Brody alone. While Clementine fights for her life, Marlon does what he knows best. He lies and manipulates. He scrambles to frame Clementine as an untrustworthy outsider, leaning on his friendships and social leverage, a classic tactic of sociopath. He appeals to emotion and outright tells the group that Clementine killed Brody. This isn't some sudden character shift triggered by guilt. This is who Marlon has always been. The only difference now is that he's panicking, watching his power slip through his fingers. And let's be clear, Marlon doesn't stop on his own. He only backs down when enough people start questioning him. That's not regret, it's self-preservation. Just like he refuses to shoot Clementine because he needs her alive to trade, Marlon never truly cared about any of them. That's also why he holds his fire earlier, during Clementine's standoff with 10, because even then, he's thinking about how to use her as leverage. When he realizes he's losing the crowd, Marlon tries one last emotional plea, begging to be let go so he can disappear forever. Whether he's sincere is up for debate. There's a good chance he'd have ended up with the Delta, possibly burning for revenge against Clementine. But we'll never know, because AJ shoots him dead, ending Marlon's life, but not his story. Many people hate AJ for this moment, and don't get me wrong, it's an inappropriate and terrible decision to shoot a surrendering enemy. He absolutely deserves to be reprimanded. But let's not pretend Marlon's plan wasn't to sell a 6-year-old child into wartime slavery, likely leading to death or even worse. When we do finally meet the Delta, we learn they're ruthless, brainwashing, child-torturing bandits. A group that would cut out a kid's tongue just for talking too much. These are the people responsible for the death of Sophie, 10's adoptive sister. Assuming Marlon knew the Delta's true brutality, it's incredibly naive to act like he wasn't practically trying to kill or destroy lives. Any of the other kids could have ended up on the chopping block if Marlon hadn't lucked into finding that crashed car that day. When we eventually see Minerva again, she's completely brainwashed and violently unhinged, a living testament to what the Delta does to people. And that's on Marlon. He kept all of this secret and showed no real remorse. To him, it was just something that had to happen. Brody, meanwhile, is the true example of what carrying that horrifying truth actually does to a person. She couldn't hold up the facade. She cracked under the weight of the guilt Marlon never seemed to feel. Some might argue that Marlon himself was manipulated by the Delta, that he cooperated only because refusing would have cost even more lives. And while there's a grain of truth to that, it still doesn't explain his chilling lack of emotion about the entire ordeal. He treats the subject almost matter-of-factly, and he actively scouted children to hand over, even if his intentions were to protect his group. That crosses a crucial line from passive compliance into deliberate hands-on complicity. All of these reasons are why so many people misunderstand and overlook who Marlon truly is. They assume he felt guilt, that his teary surrendering apology was heartfelt and sincere, but the reality is, it took the entire group turning against him before he showed any real emotion beyond anger or calculated manipulation. Marlon wasn't innocent, nor was he just a scared kid trying his best. He harbored a dark secret that led directly to few deaths, and kept his closest friends trapped in the illusion of safety. Nothing he says or does is trustworthy, because his entire leadership is built on lies. With his true intentions established from the very start, and his pattern of deception exposed, can you honestly say Marlon was just a frightened teenager? Or do you see now that the real victim might have been you, the player, deceived by his performance all along? Shout out to my awesome members: Gog, Wizard Elf, Eternal Canadian, Fresh Pokemon Hunter, Ross Moe and Bear for making these videos possible. And a huge shout out to you for watching. As always, it truly means a lot.